Alright, so now what I'm doing is I'm cutting the notches out for the bed frame support. Some people, you gotta get a special tool to do certain angles to drill into the post with the board. I decided to cut my notches out and then glue the rails into here, still hiding the screws, but you don't have to go out and buy any extra tools as long as you got a table saw and what I'm using to start my cut, which is this multi-tool. So what I'm doing is I got like an 1.5 inch groove I'm cutting out to fit the width of the boards, which is, if you remember, it's 1.5 by 7. I'm gonna cut it down to 7. It's 1.5 by 8, 7.5. What I'm doing is I'm just gonna start it right here on each side and then go to my table saw to finish it out. And so I don't run too far over into the rest of the leg, I'm going to stop it short and then finish it back off with the multi-tool. So right now I'm just going to mark off my 1.5 inch, start the cut with this, go to table saw and finish it off. Alright, let me make sure I got the right corner here, like that.
Just a second, baby.
Hey, Mama?
Yes.
We put Bandit on baby Tina.
And luckily, I want to know that I'm working with the come on!
Paper, Mommy.
I'm working with
Okay, baby.
Home Depot birch. Basic stock, nothing special here. Strong, not too heavy, but you know, it'll get the job done according to other people that have worked with birch before.
Hey, look at that.
So now what I'm gonna do is, I got those pretty started. I'm gonna line up my cuts. I already have my plunge depth set, my table saw. All right, now I'm going back in with the multi-tool. You can see I didn't have to go too deep. You know, you can get a little wood filler, fill that in if you go in a, you know, fraction a little bit over, but everything else will be hidden. Also, this birch smells pretty good, you know what I mean? You can put this, soak it in some water, splash some on yourself, make it feel like smell like a mountain man for your gal. Might get a little action that night.
Obviously, he has no idea that that doesn't do it. Clueless.
Then we got that clean, we're gonna flip it over to the other one.
Good thing he knows about this kind of wood.
Boom. Just got a bit. As you can see, pretty clean up in there. Just a little debris to, you know, work out. You hit that with your saw later. I like to go over, you know, grab something that's square, make sure everything's flush enough. That's pretty good. May take off a little of that back stock right there. Yeah, sitting in there pretty nice. Be able to clean up this little saw. You get a little chisel or something like that. You can go in there and work any kind of loose little chips or remnants that are still behind on your leg. So looking pretty good. Got our 4 legs. We just got to cut our link beams, footers and headers. I'm gonna make these in one piece, so cut that down, place it right in here, it'll rest on here, so it's a double support, right? You got your glue you're gonna put on there, then you get the screws, juke. So you got glue, screws, and you got a 1.5 base for those beams to rest on, so that thing's not going anywhere. All right, so I thought I was done with the legs, but apparently my girl needs she can't have the solid, just square leg. She needed a taper. So I'm back out here doing a taper, and there are, I'm sure, better ways to do this, but I'm just working with the tools I got.
Can you tell us what tools do you have?
I have a table saw.
What kind? What are you using? For those other amateurs out there.
Skill saw, I believe. It's
Brand?
Skill saw.
Oh.
It's pretty much what I do. Get an overhead view right here. I pretty much just cut a wedge out, marked it where the wedge is going to be placed on each one as I slide it back and forth along the blade to stick it out to give me that gap. I started about a 1/2 inch below the notch I cut so it wouldn't interfere with it. And you just hold the wedge in place, hold your leg, and then slide it up and down the gang. Again, I got pretty accurate. You see my mark right there, 3/4. It's always good to try on error with some scrap wood of similar size before you jump into it. So that's how I got the taper edge, and you can see on this one. Already got a couple done. That taper, I only taper one side of this because you can't see the other one. So I did the double taper on the end legs because you can see it from both the front and the side. And here I'm just finishing up. The saw blade didn't go all the way deep. So once I finish, I take it out, come around this side. This takes skill, my friend. Then you just line it up with your cut like this, and you kind of just hand do it. All right, you can follow the path of the blade. It'll help you along the way. Alright, you got your taper. Again, just go back in. A little handsaw, a little rough grit. Go with the fine stuff afterward to finish it all off. And now we got our four legs. I believe that is mostly the hard part. Everything else is just a lot of gluing and screwing. So here we are. I just gotta cut everything down to size, my beams, sand them, get them nice and smooth. Always do a dry fit first. Make sure everything fits together before you go screwing and gluing things together. You do a dry fit, make sure everything is plumb and square, and then you can go back, put everything together, stain it. Alright, so now I'm just going to pre-drill my 3 holes for the header and footer boards. This close to the edge. This close to the edge. Come on, camera person. This close to the edge, you don't want to split the wood by putting a screw in there, so I'm going to pre-drill first before I put the screws in. 3 on each end.
Well, there were a few steps we missed in between. Can you just tell us what you did? You were just sanding, or what did you do in between? I think the last thing we got was...
I just sanded everything down. That's pretty much it. Cleaned out my inside joints of the leg. Make sure everything was even with any obstructions in the corners and everything.
Okay.
Film this when I'm talking about something. Just clean up the inside here, and I sanded these down. I'm just fitting them in. Can't use clamps, but I think we're good right here. So go about halfway between this width, about 3/4 inch in. Do it nice and slow. Going towards the bottom. Then what I'm going to do, switch bits. Got these little kind of flathead screws, something like that, but I'm still going to countersink it into there so it's nice and flush for when I put the other long boards on. It's not hitting any protrusion, and it helps you get a little deeper into the wood, make it a little more secure. So
What kind of drill are you using?
this is your rigid. You don't have to spend a lot of money, just get a good drill. This has been helping me up pretty good. 2 batteries has let me down. That's all you want to do, just a little bit, don't overdo it. I gotta do the same thing over here. I got my holes pre-drilled, and I'm just gonna apply glue to the inside in here.
Stop directing me. This is my show.
You gotta see it from here.
Okay. Don't tell me what kind of glue you're using.
Basic wood glue. Tight bond. Basic stuff at Home Depot or Lowe's, wherever you go. Again, this is all kind of triple coverage because I'm going to have the glue. I got this base for the boards to rest on already, and I'm going to nail it in. So getting a real lot of support on this beam.
Can you just hold that up? Just for people who want to use exactly what you use.
Tight bond. Got some GRK 2.5-inch screws. Just for this, I got a little higher gauge, a 10 gauge for when I do some of the side rail supports that the beams are going to go on. So now, put my beam back into place. Make sure everything's flush. bought some clamps, but I was having a little trouble working with those, so I'm just gonna hold it together, get my first screw in, and then go ahead with the get my center screw in. Then I'm gonna do the outer edges. Also, if you're a professional woodworker, you'll probably have a planer. So when you get wood from the store, you can plane down both sides, get it nice and flat. I sanded this down there pretty straight, so I think I'd be okay. But it does bend a little bit, so I'm hoping I can screw it down, straighten it out without cracking any of the boards. Put that in there, make sure everything is nice and tight. Let's finish it off. Don't go too fast because you don't want to crack the leg underneath either. That's pretty good. Next I'm going to go for the base one to get this more flush and flat first before I do the top.
It's okay.
Not okay.
Little chip is there, it won't be a problem. We'll just sand that off before we stain it and everything. But everything's flush up here, flush. So
This is the inside of the frame?
This is the inside of the frame. Also why it won't be such a bigger problem, but we'll still clean it up. Alright, so now I'm about to hang these, pre-hang these bed frame brackets. Pretty much like $16 on Amazon. But this on one side of the board, this tell you what's going on the header and footboard. This goes on your long board this way. And then eventually you can take this apart and it'll slide back down. So there's a number of ways to do this. I'm gonna show you how I'm gonna do it. And you can choose a better way later. So I'm gonna line my board up where I want it. It's 1.5 inch board, it's 1.5 inch recess, so I know if I go right to the edge of that recess, I'm right where I need to be. I'm gonna take it maybe a couple millimeters past that just to cover up that gap between the posts and thing. It shouldn't affect my overall measurement too much. So make sure it's flush with the top. Right there, looks pretty good. And go ahead and measure, make sure it's still right here is still even. So I'm getting that 2. Okay, go ahead and a little bit. 2. Alright, so I'm good right where I'm at. I'm gonna go ahead. On this side.
You don't stop. So you're doing these brackets instead of screwing them in, so that's easier to take apart?
Instead of screwing the whole frame together, yeah. So if you want to move, you don't have to unscrew. You know, the more you screw and unscrew something, it gets a little stripped. So I don't want to have to unscrew the whole thing. All I got to do is lift it off the little, bracket, and we're good to go. All right, so my board is mostly in place. I'll go ahead and set this up. Get it where I need it. It's about right there. What I'm gonna do is hold that down. Right. Put my board down. Now I'm going to it comes with these screws, and somebody else used these online and went with the bigger screw. I probably will as well. It's only like a 3/4 inch. I'll probably get something that maybe goes an inch depth, a little deeper into it, make sure it's a little more sturdy. But I'm gonna put this in it right now, just to keep it in place. Maybe swap out later, but I'm just gonna put 2 screws in right now just to keep it in.
There's no cutting here.
I felt a little shift, so I'm just making sure that it didn't move on me too much. All right, so instead of doing that way, I know this is I know my post is 3.5 inches, so I'm just measuring 3.5 inches over. This way, mark, line it up, and then screw it in. And now I'm gonna take my board, the actual latch. I'm gonna attach this right there, put that in place. Now line my board up to it. Make sure it's flush with the top. Alright. Go through this way. Make sure that's down. Alright, so now I got my 4 drill marks. 1, 2, 3, 4. Where'd it go?
Down.
There you go.
Check.
Alright. So it should be good to go. Then I'll go fasten those onto there. Let's do it. Let's do a test one and see how well this will turn out. Alright, so I just put 2 support screws in now. Like I said, I'll probably change them out for something a little longer. So imagine you get it like this, get into your frame, and boom. It'll sit right on there. See, that's nice and flush. Alright, so I did all my pre-drills, also went through, you can look in here. Just went and countersunk a little bit, just help it get a little tighter attachment to the board underneath. So the screws will go flush in there. Just help grip a little better. So now I'm just gonna flip it over. Apply my glue. All right, once you got your glue on there, nice good amount, go ahead and flip it over and place it in a position. Now what I'm going to do, we use these a little heavier duty screws I'm using for this one. They're a little thicker, number 10 2.5 construction screws, because it's going to holding so much of the weight. So I got a little thicker screw. Pretty much what I'm going to do is I'm going to start at the ends, and then probably stagger my screws. You don't want to load up too heavy on one end. You want to keep them spaced so that everything's nice and even, and you can make any kind of adjustments to the actual beam if you need to make it level at any other point. So I'll put my first one in. And I usually slow up a little bit when I get to the beam because you don't want to crack it underneath. So when you got a bed this big, it's important that you probably get a center support to hold all that weight from the expanse. I'm doing a king size bed as a reminder again. So now I'm just setting up the center support with one bracket on each end. It's like 97 cents from Home Depot. Just using this as a test piece. It's going to be my 2x4 support. Now I got to make sure this is the same height as the top of the rails I just did for the side support. So which started 2.5 inches down, and it's 3.5 inches for the 2x4. So your bottom line is going to be 6, but I've already marked it at 2.5, so I just got to line it up. Make sure I'm square. Alright, and we can just drill it in place. Screw. Alright, so one of the last parts for construction, I wanted to add a little shelf to the top, cover up, you know, some of the 2x4 and stuff like that. Get a nice, clean look, so there's none of this gap right here. Curl up this stuff and get it flat. So I cut 3/4 thick basic lumber piece, and I'll put this over top on this side. Get nice and flush. Lined up right here. You know, should be a pretty good finish on that. Cut a 3/4 by 3/4 piece of strip right here for extra support, because this hangs over about 2 inches, just in case my kids want to jump on it and get crazy or something, or somebody step down a little extra extended support. So there's not much overhang or any danger of this coming apart.
Mommy, where's the cat? Cat supposed to be here?
It's on the table, bud.
So then I'm just going to apply glue. I'm doing this. Getting our tree cut. I I didn't use screws for this because I didn't want to crack anything. So I use my nailer, little Hitachi. So I'm using glue it in. A few nails on about 15, 16 nails on the top, and be good to go. I'm just gonna glue this, put my strip on, drive some nails. I'm gonna drive the nails. I'm not gonna drive them into the support thing. I'm gonna drive most of my nails into the main 2x6, 2x7. Okay, so today is the moment of truth. We're gonna piece this puppy together. As you can see, I got my stain on there. American, something American. I'll put that in the description later. And a high-end finish on there, 3 coats. I'll put that in the supply list as well. So now we're gonna piece this together. High-end woodworking would have had a planer. They would have ran the beams through a planer, get them nice and even and square. These are actually pretty close, and I didn't want to spend $1,500 getting one, so I just stuck with it and sent it down to Rust Spots. Got it real smooth. But just to say, the boards may be curved by maybe, you know, a quarter of an inch here or there, so maybe you have to use a little muscle to get these in, but it should still fit pretty well if I follow my plans correctly. So let's go ahead and start getting one of these pieces in.
I am coming.
And so you're gonna see in here, you can see this locking system. It's gonna go pretty neatly right inside. Actually, hold on. I'm gonna do the screw a little bit. Okay, so now you can see our bed latch system that we attached earlier. Simply gonna line it up. Simply, boom, lock it into place. You can see up here it's a good, I did end up putting a board on this top. It looked like that ended up pretty flush, so we still got some tightening to do, but I think that actually turned out pretty well and accurate. I'm gonna come down to the other side and attach this one now. Just scoot into place a little bit. And boom. So that's pretty good. Got one side in. Go down here to the other. And do the same thing. Here, as you may have noticed, this bedroom is way too small for this bed, but we really didn't care. We needed room. I was tired of getting kneed in the ribs. So
Not by me.
When my kids like to jump into the bed, and I got no room to move around, and somebody ends up on a couch, Papa needed space. Alright, so we're gonna go first, lock in. It's pretty sound. We're gonna get our second one lined up while that one kind of is in between. Here we go. It's locked in. Right down here. I think we're pretty good.
So, little setback. What happened?
When I put the top on, it protruded this out maybe an eighth of an inch, but this was so precise that the latches wouldn't go on because the tops are touching too quick. So I got to shave some of this down, restain it, and then reapply the protective coating. I'm just using a basic hand planer, something that I can control and taking down as much as I can.
But, yeah, I think that's better than that.
We're live.
Alright, so I got my rails in. Not gonna lie, it was a little tricky because my measurement didn't have this top shelf on any of it, so I threw off the design a little bit when I had a little overhang, so I decided to take the piece back out and shave down inside. Dude.
Thanks, bud. You're the best.
Shaved down the inside rail so it fit flush again, and I had to restain it and urethane it, and so anyway, I got it done in a day. But I got it back in, I got everything latched in. Pretty good. As you can see, all the way around. Pretty sturdy. I will say this is a little tip if you polyurethaning or varnish, whatever you're doing, you get a little drip or, you know, one side where it builds up. I would say don't sand it. Don't sand it. I would just get maybe a hand planer and plane it. You may have to go through the steps again of restaining the wood, stuff like that. But in my experience, trying to sand through the varnish and stain sometimes can just burn the stain into the wood, and it just creates this kind of off-balance thing. The best thing is just to plane the wood, plane it all the way down to the natural wood, and then restain it and put your protective coating on. So now we're gonna try to put in this center support. This one I didn't have a video for, but what I did was I just took my hey, 1 second. All right, love you.
Thanks, baby Q.
I took my 4x4, and what I did is I just cut a notch out for this 2x4. All I did was I took this, put my table saw up to the highest it could go, which was about 3 inches extended from the table, and I just ran it first like 3/4 inches from this edge, then 3/4 from that edge. Left this gap, and then I just kept running it through until I got rid of this whole open section. Some people, if you don't have a bandsaw or whatever to cut that through, or the right materials, you can still use the table saw. You just got to do a number of cuts, and then I just took my multi-tool saw and just finished off any rough edges to clean that up in there. So now we're gonna put this in, see if hoping it fits. It's pretty good. Right level on the floor, not much overhang. That way, it'll put that nice and clean down. So, all in all, I think that's pretty good. Now we're gonna start putting. I might have cut these a little too close to the actual width of the opening, so I'm hoping there's not too much trouble in getting these in. I didn't cut any notches, and I'm not screwing them in just because once you get the matches on here, these things aren't going to be shifting around. So I'm just going to lay them down cold, maybe about 4 inches space or so in between each one. I'm hoping to be enough. That's a big ass bed. Oh, that's a big ass bed.
Except the whole room.
Well, got it done. Pretty good. No room for a nightstand.
Get on it. Get tested out.
That is quiet.